Are you ready to perform at your highest potential? Welcome to the Performance Matters podcast from GP Strategies, your talent transformation partner. In each episode, we'll interview industry experts and explore best practices and innovative insights to help your organization improve performance. I'm your host, Michael Thiel, and I'm pleased to be joined once again by Leah Clark, Senior Director and Practice Lead for the Leadership Consulting Practice at GP Strategies. Welcome, Leah.
Hey, Michael. Thanks for having me.
Today, we're talking about the connection between AI, artificial intelligence, and EI, emotional intelligence. Is there one? And what might that look like from a leadership perspective? I think that is a really intriguing topic here, Leah. So my first question for you is truly a little devil's advocate question. And that's, if AI can't feel, why is emotional intelligence so important to AI?
Yeah, it is such a great question. First of all, the EI, I feel like it's a little bit of Old McDonald, like AIEIO kind of thing.
I was trying to do my best from an emotional intelligence standpoint and not say that, but that immediately came to my mind too.
I will say it's a bit of a conundrum inside a riddle, inside a question there. And my answer will be equally as multi-layered, but also quite simple, right? EI is important in AI in part because AI can't feel. AI can do some amazing things and it has deficits. And one of those deficits is its inability to feel. It doesn't have a heart. It can't genuinely express emotion. It might be able to mimic some things that you might say, well, that looks like it's recognizing emotion to me, but not so much. And so EI is important in AI, first of all, because it's something that we as humans bring to the table that AI can't. And another layer to that is that EI is important when leaders are helping to bring people along the AI or technology curve, because they need to have a sensitivity to where their people are and recognize that from an emotional standpoint, people are in different places with respect to their comfort level. So multi-layered. Layer one, AI doesn't have emotions. So EI that we have, the emotions that we have, become even more important. And layer two, we need to have emotional intelligence in helping people come to grips with maybe some of the feelings and emotions they have in adopting AI.
That's a great answer. And it also kind of made me think of the Wizard of Oz, I'll be honest with you. It doesn't have a heart or a mind or things like that.
Okay, so wait a second. Did you read the blog that I wrote about the Wizard of AI?
No, I didn't. I need to go back. Where would I find this?
You will find this on gpstrategies.com, though, again, we are remarkably aligned because in that I talk about the fact that AI is the big brain that the scarecrow wants, the human the heart to the table, right, that the Tin Man was looking for. But the third component that I was saying leaders need to have is the courage to embrace a human plus AI team. So look at us, again, pretty aligned in our thinking here.
If you can basically kind of break down the different aspects of emotional intelligence and maybe cross-reference that to the relationship to AI. And I say this because I think a lot of us, like myself, I've heard the term emotional intelligence before, but I really haven't broken it down at that codification level. So I think that would be a pretty cool thing to talk about today. So I'm going to put you on the hot seat here.
Okay. I love to talk about emotional intelligence, and it's such a critical skill. It's a life skill, right? I talk about it in the context of leadership, and having emotional intelligence as a human being will serve you well. And the short answer, to cut through all of the clutter and the terminology and the lingo about emotional intelligence, it is essentially about being able to identify your own emotions and recognize the emotions of others, and then to be able to use that emotional awareness to have better relationships, communicate more effectively, handle conflict, deal with stress. So at its core, and I'll go deeper, but if you want to really strip it away, EI is all about ability to recognize your emotions and those of others and use that knowledge constructively.
That's a great high-level overview, Leah. Let's break it down and dive a little deeper.
So we can do that by using the quadrants of emotional intelligence that were popularized by Daniel Goleman. And what I'll do, Michael, is I'll connect it to AI simultaneously. That first module for emotional intelligence is awareness. And AI provokes a lot of emotions on the part of employees, but also honestly on the part of leaders, including fear, excitement, anxiety. And there's really no right or wrong when it comes to emotions. You know that expression, I don't know if you've seen it, your vibe is valid. That's really what it's like with emotions. What an emotionally intelligent individual and leader does is really possess that capacity to recognize their feelings, to name them, and to say or notice, like, oh, I'm acting in a certain way. And what's the root of how I'm acting or feeling? And then turning inward to dig a little deeper, to be self-reflective and to understand the root of that emotion. So emotional awareness, first step, recognizing the emotion. Many of them are likely to surface when we're talking about AI, and trying to get at the root of whatever that feeling is, fear, anxiety, excitement, as really your starting line.
Why would you want to do that, Leah?
Yeah, I'm just going to name my emotions. I'm going to walk around all day naming my emotions, and that is great fun, but of no value. Well, of course it is, right? So once you recognize your emotions and you name it, then you can do something about it. Sometimes, particularly with challenging emotions, we'll say name it to tame it. So if you're feeling a certain way, for example, about AI, maybe anxious, you can tune into that anxiety and start to identify what that's all about. Why am I anxious about AI? Maybe you realize I'm worried that it's going to take over a part of my role as a leader, or maybe I'm uncomfortable really knowing how to use it. Maybe we're anxious about our team members using it. But when we name our emotions, we stand a better chance of then doing something about them and choosing the actions that will either amplify those emotions or maybe moderate them. So that's why you want to name it. You want to name it so then you can figure out what it is that you need to do about it.
I love that. And I just wrote down that quote, name it to tame it. I think that's fantastic. Let's move to the next part of what you said, recognizing the emotions of others.
Yeah. So really important. And that is what we call emotional empathy. So being able to really put ourselves in the shoes or the seat of the other person and try and feel what they're feeling. And with respect to AI, right, because we're connecting EI and AI here, a lot of employees, many of them are a little bit afraid of AI, and leaders too. It's unknown. It's changing rapidly. They have concerns about how it's going to be used. Our research shows us that they do have, worries about ethical challenges and misuse and abuse. They think that it will make their jobs obsolete, and they start to wonder, perhaps, what value do I add if AI can be doing part of my job? Or will I be viewed negatively if I use AI to augment what it is that I'm doing? And not all of them, Michael, I would say are negative, though. I want to be clear about that. We're seeing a trend towards excitement and energy and positivity around AI. So that is something to note as well. But the point is, as a leader, if you're going to bring people along this AI adoption curve, you sure as heck should know how they're feeling about it and know where they're coming from with respect to, again, that spectrum of fear, anxiety, excitement, enthusiasm, so that you know how to meet them where they are.
This is fantastic. And I feel like I'm back in school, Leah. I'm writing down quadrants right now. So, so far, I've got down awareness, empathy, or maybe awareness of others. I'm picking up a lot here, but what's next?
Yeah. And that's a great question, because again, you're sort of stepping through this mental model, if you will. And now what do you do with all of this great self-awareness and awareness of others? Let's make this specific if I can. Let's say from a leader's perspective, you recognize that you have excitement about AI, right? That's your emotion. You're reading a lot about it, you're enthusiastic, and that enthusiasm and positivity is sky high. Maybe you've listened to numerous AI podcasts or you've read books and you are 100% committed to an energetic implementation of AI. You're all in. Well, an emotionally intelligent leader checks in with their emotions, they have self-awareness, and understands if maybe that enthusiasm is shaping their decisions in a positive way or maybe an unrealistic way. Perhaps the enthusiasm that leader is feeling is warranted, or maybe you take a temperature check of those around you and you get the sense as a leader that not everyone has the same enthusiasm that you do. And that's being emotionally intelligent about AI in this case. You recognize your enthusiasm, but also the concern or the fear others may have. And then what you do, it's not, again, just the awareness, you adjust your decisions and maybe your approach to the implementation of AI. You don't force others to be as enthusiastic as you are, but you meet people where they are, and potentially you alter your actions or your approach. So that's where the action orientation of managing your emotions and your actions comes into play.
Okay, so if I'm a leader, I guess you could say EI leads to AI. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say for all the reasons that we touched on and maybe some that we haven't even yet uncovered.
What are those?
I touched on this at the very beginning. I'm happy to come full circle because I think it's another layer of the EI-AI equation that is a good one to discuss. And that is the relationship between EI and AI and the ability to read emotions and respond to them is something that is uniquely human, still uniquely human. And AI can't do that. AI can't feel. Again, AI can't recognize the emotions of others, maybe mimic them. And there is incredible value in the relationships that we have with others and bringing that awareness of the person sitting across the table from us or across the phone from us to the relationships we have, the way we lead, the way we coach, the way we communicate. And AI just doesn't have that. That relational component is a unique aspect of who we are as human beings and as leaders. And I think it's going to be critically important to embrace AI, but also keep that a relational and emotional component of who we are intact.
Okay, well, I've been reading, following up on different articles and emerging trends here. And one that I'm kind of curious about was this emergence of bots. So, what about bots that respond to humans?
Yeah, and my techie friends, not necessarily that you're one of them, but this is where my techie friends will push back and say, no, bots can also express emotions. So there's nothing that they can't do that human beings and leaders, can do. And I just wholeheartedly disagree. I know that there are certain bots that can mimic human emotions, but they don't have a heart, and so they can't feel. And this is from somebody who is encouraging the embrace of AI and bots while also recognizing we don't want to disenfranchise what human beings bring to the table, right? Bots can maybe express cognitive empathy, but not emotional empathy. And this is part of the power of leadership, the leader's ability to express emotions, to honor the emotions of others, and incorporate that into the work that they do. I really feel like that is a distinguishing feature of the human contribution to this human plus AI equation, and it's a significant one. So another reason this is such a relevant topic, this interplay of AI and EI, I think intelligence needs to be defined by more than our cognitive ability, more than the information that AI can provide. Intelligence includes having social intelligence and emotional intelligence. And so I say, bring on the technology, use it to augment the work that you do, use it to free up time as a leader so that you can spend more time deploying those social skills and those relational skills. AI is intelligent, but it can't be as fully intelligent as human beings, I believe, because it lacks the capacity to read sufficiently and express emotions And so I think the power will always be with human beings, bringing the best of what tech has to offer, that head start, that data, that analysis, but also the emotional intelligence that we can still only find at its best in the human beings and the leaders that are parts of our organization.
Great stuff. Leah, as always, thank you for sharing your time and insight with our listeners. I have a slew of notes here, and I see some really powerful connections between AI and the power that I, as a human, have with emotional intelligence, both for coming to grips with the opportunities of artificial intelligence, as well as helping my fellow coworkers and colleagues explore ideas on how to leverage it. Leah, as always, thank you for sharing your time, your wisdom, your insight with our listeners. I look forward to our next conversation. The Performance Matters podcast is brought to you by GP Strategies. Together, we can create a world where business excellence makes possibilities achievable. You can subscribe to the show anywhere you get podcasts or listen on our website at gpstrategies.com.